Am I the jerk for not referring to my parents' child as my sibling? My dad has an employee named Nick. Nick has worked for my dad for 14 years, and in that time, they have developed a father-son bond. My dad calls Nick and me his kids, and Nick joins us for family holidays and birthdays since he has no other family that we know of. My boyfriend Alex has always referred to Nick as my brother since I explained the situation, even though I never have. If I talk about Nick, I always just say he's pretty much my dad's other child, or I explain the whole situation. Alex has tried to correct me a few times, and I have corrected him back. I know this is a sore subject for him because he is adopted, but the thing is, I don't have a sibling relationship with Nick at all. We get along well, but I don't feel like he's my brother. We have an 8-year age gap, and I didn't meet him until I was 11, and I never lived or grew up with him. I do consider him family, and I'd do anything for him the same way he would for me, but he's still not a brother to me. I'm just not comfortable with that term. I've explained to Alex that it is in no way the same thing because he grew up with his parents and siblings, but he still says it makes him feel like I place a lot of importance on blood family, which makes him feel like I must think he's not really part of his family. This came up again last night when Alex and I were out with his colleagues, and one asked if I was an only child. I said yes. Alex then corrected me and said I have a brother, technically. I said technically I don't because there aren't any papers of my dad ever adopting Nick, so technically, legally, I'm an only child, and told him to leave it alone. On the way home, Alex blew up at me, accusing me of valuing blood connections only, and saying he feels like I'm invalidating his and other adoptees' experiences of family. I said my relationship or lack thereof with Nick is not related to his family, and he needs to keep his issues to himself. He's now being cold towards me. I don't think I should feel pressured to pretend I see Nick as a brother when I don't, but I also don't know if I'm being inconsiderate in terms of my thinking here. I'm not saying adoptees aren't real family, but I know I don't see Nick as my brother even if my dad did adopt him. I think you are not in the wrong here. Your boyfriend is forcing his insecurities onto you, and that's not cool. It's your family, not your boyfriend's, and if you don't feel comfortable calling Nick your brother, then you don't have to. Alex might not agree with that, but he does need to keep his mouth shut about it because it's not his place to correct you in public. Am I the jerk for not agreeing to walk my parents' fiancé down the aisle? My dad is getting married in September, and a few months ago, his fiancé asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. She is not close to her own family, and she has no children of her own. Dad has me, a 17-year-old male, and my two sisters, a 20-year-old female and a 15-year-old female. Our mom died 8 years ago, so it was just us and Dad before his fiancée came into his life and then ours. I do not really like his fiancée. I accept that my dad does, but she comes across as kind of pushy to me and a little too possessive. She had a moment when my older sister moved all her stuff out of our house a few months ago so she could take it to her own place. The moment was over when my sister asked Dad for photos of his and Mom's wedding if he had any spares, and she was upset that they were still in the house. She was also upset about the fact that my sister wanted to take some. My younger sister and I got upset when all photos of our mom were taken down in the living room and dining room. Dad's fiancé was upset about our reaction and said we should want this to be comfortable for her. She does not like us calling her by her first name and tried to influence us to call her mommy. We both knew that was another word for mom and said no. She said it is not mom though and could be special for us to call her that. My older sister had a small surgery, and she asked Dad if he would be able to come and stay with her and drive her back to her place. Dad said he could try, and he said to let her know if he could not. His fiancée told him she would do it if he could not, and my younger sister heard them talk about it, so she warned my older sister. So my older sister called back and said that if he could not, she would ask our grandmother. Grandma ended up going with her, and Dad's fiancé got upset that she did not want her there. Mother's Day was also awkward last year because she expected us to celebrate her. This year was doubly so because the expectation was still there. I have talked to my dad about it, and I have told her as well. But nothing really changed, and she got upset again. So I said no to walking her down the aisle, and I have continued saying no, and she continues asking. It is sort of the final few months, and she told me how much she wants me to do it because it shows me embracing her into the family and makes her feel supported by not just Dad, but the other male in the family. I told her I did not want to do it. It has become a source of tension. My sisters are on my side, and Dad has tried to compromise with her by them walking together, but it has not changed things. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It sounds like she's been pushy and hasn't respected your boundaries or the memory of your mother. Walking her down the aisle is a significant gesture that you're not comfortable with, and it's important to stay true to your feelings. Your dad's fiancé needs to understand and respect your boundaries rather than continually pressuring you into something you're uncomfortable with. Am I the jerk for deleting my vlogger friends' footage without their permission? I invited my friends over for a housewarming to celebrate me moving into my dream home. It's a place I've been saving and working super hard for, and everyone was happy to come over and celebrate the milestone. The issue is that one of my friends, Susie, is a popular vlogger. She asked if she could film part of the party to include in her day in a live video. I am super private, so I said no at first, but Susie promised she wouldn't show anything personal and only wanted a couple of scenes of my friends laughing together and footage of the food spread. She also promised I wouldn't be in the video. I was still uncomfortable, but after she assured me she wouldn't overshare, I said fine. The day of the party, within 10 minutes of it starting, a mutual friend pulled me aside and said that she saw Susie filming her intro and mentioned giving a house tour of her friend's new home. She also said that she saw Susie filming the outside of my home from top to bottom, and it would be easy to tell the neighborhood I lived in. During the entirety of the party, I noticed that Susie kept filming more than what she promised. I did confront her about it. I asked to see the footage and Susie said no and acted super offended that I wouldn't trust her. I waited until the end of the party, and when Susie was in the bathroom before leaving, I decided to just go through her camera. I was furious when I noticed that she filmed my whole home, even my bedroom and closet, and there were many clips where you could clearly see my face. The footage looked like one of those home tour videos that realtors post online. I can admit that I was acting on impulse and my anger at this point, but I went ahead and just deleted all of the footage of the party. She found out shortly after when she went to shoot footage of everyone leaving and confronted me. I did admit to doing it, and we had a bit of a row until I just kicked her out. Most of my friends are understanding and on my side, but they did say that I shouldn't have gone and deleted the footage myself. I personally felt like I did the nice way of asking Susie directly first, but she was being so obstinate that I had no choice. The drama has been spreading around now with mixed reactions, so I wanted another opinion in case I really was the asshole. I think you were not in the wrong here. She trampled over the boundaries you set and lied about doing so, showing no respect for your privacy. If you hadn't taken action, your face and home could be all over the internet now, and that's a bell you can't unring. It's your house, your day, and your rules, and she didn't seem to care about any of it. That's not the act of a friend, and if you lose her because of this, it's probably for the best. Am I the jerk for not postponing our wedding to accommodate my sister-in-law? My fiancé and I are set to be married in December. We got engaged in June 2023 and decided on the wedding date a year and a half in advance for everyone's convenience. We have been dating for 10 years and have been saving up for the wedding for 5 years to be able to afford an extravagant wedding in a palace in India. We finally made those arrangements. My fiancé's sister has always been a golden child. She always got what she asked for, as opposed to my fiancé, who they treat like a cash cow. Every time his mother needs anything expensive, he's the first call she makes. I try not to get between them, but she's never shown any interest in his life. Regarding the wedding, we sent out save the dates in December 2023 for people to plan their holidays well in advance. My sister-in-law got married 3 years ago. It was a nice wedding, but not as fancy as ours. When she learned about our plans, she started finding problems with everything to the point where my fiancé asked her to stop interfering. Last week, we got a call from her, excited to tell us she was pregnant and expecting a child in December. Both of us were shocked but happy for her and congratulated her. She then proceeded to say, "So you can just come to San Francisco to get married at the City Hall. I would need help with the baby." I was baffled and told her the wedding is still on, and her having a child does not change our wedding plans. She threw a fit when I said that and hung up. Later that day, his mom called and told us to postpone the wedding for 6 months so his sister could attend it. She said if we don't, she wouldn't attend either and that her daughter's pregnancy is a bigger event than our stupid marriage. My fiancé was upset and chose not to respond, but I lost my composure. I told her that if my sister-in-law prioritized her pregnancy over our marriage, which she knew about for a year and a half, we're not obligated to prioritize her pregnancy over our happiness. My fiancé is speechless and we don't know what to do. Would I be the antagonist for not postponing the wedding? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. The cynic in me thinks it's a ploy by your sister-in-law to see how high you'll jump if she says higher. Either way, you don't need to rearrange your wedding because your sister-in-law can't make it. 6 months later, it'll be the kid's only 6 months old and hasn't had all their shots, so they can't travel. Have your drama-free wedding without the golden child and her enabler. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling not to blame our family or their spouse's family for their regret? My brother and his wife got married about 6 years ago. They were 2 single parents who wanted to be married to each other, but the children were not as enthusiastic about the idea as the adults. So they decided to live as a married couple with 2 separate families. My brother's children were parented solely by my brother. His wife's children were parented solely by his wife. His children interacted with our family. Her children interacted with her family. The children interacted with their biological siblings only. They were not a blended family or even a family unit. It was very much 2 family units centered around a married couple. It was strange to members on both sides of their families, but it just was what it was. I always foresaw a time when they would regret it, especially if they ever wanted to change how things worked, and the children were against it, or no love developed for step-relatives we have no ongoing relationship with. But I also knew it wasn't my place to interfere. Well, the day has come, and regret has already set in. My brother's oldest child graduated from high school a couple of weeks ago, and my parents told them that they had saved for each grandchild's future, and they now had access to money to pay for college or to get them started if they went for an apprenticeship. Of course, my brother's oldest child was excited. However, my brother and his wife were not as excited because the money saved will be for each biological grandchild, not the wife's children, and they do not have the same help and support from their biological grandparents. My brother and his wife told my parents they can't give to some and not all. They said the stepchildren are not a part of our family and are not their grandchildren, and, therefore, they do not owe them any money. My brother attempted to talk to his children about the money, and they said they didn't care about his wife's children or if they struggle or not, so they're not worried about them. My brother and his wife are now upset with both their families for the very clear and very hurtful divide in their family. I told my brother he has no business blaming us for the regret he and his wife feel when they made the decisions they did, and now have the outcome that was always inevitable. I told him the children all seem happy, so they should get over it. He was angry. Am I the asshole? I think you are not in the wrong here. Your brother really expects your parents to pay for children that they haven't even spent any time with? That's wild. So, your parents weren't worth knowing until there was cash on offer? Your brother and his wife are fools. Am I the jerk for telling my spouse's sibling-in-law that they can't speak for every individual with a unisex or gender-bending name? My sister-in-law is expecting her first child with her husband. For the last 4.5 months of her pregnancy, he has been insufferable. They are no closer to finding a name for their baby, and he uses the pregnancy and the fact they are actively still naming their baby to criticize unisex and gender-bending names. His name is Skylar, and he talks about how cruel his parents were for giving him such a girly name. He often rants about people trying to call him Sky, and how that's such a girl's name. He regularly brings up the fact that men should not have unisex or feminine names. He often mentions how so many people think naming a boy Riley today is fine, or naming a boy Sage makes sense. He believes it's wrong. He talked about meeting a young boy named Ren, and how his parents had cursed him to forever be mistaken for a girl when people hear the name. He insists that no man or boy likes those names or wants to be called those names. As a male named Indigo who goes by Indy in day-to-day life, including at work, school, and college, I disagree that every guy feels this way. I don't. I also know a guy named Kenzie from school who never had a problem with his name. I know a guy named Sunny who hated his name because he felt it was too girly. It balances out. However, my brother-in-law is adamant that every man and boy with any name that is also used for girls is disgusted by it and hates it. He will not let it go. This came up again on Saturday when we went out to lunch. He was being loud and doing his usual rant. This time, I spoke up and told him he can't speak for all guys with unisex or gender-bending names because we don't all hate our names, and he can look to me as an example if he wants. I also pointed to a guy he follows on social media who technically has a unisex name. I told him they might not be his thing, and that's fine. Nobody can force him to like those names. However, he's wrong to speak in absolutes about it. He acted like I had personally demanded he name his son Ella or something. He called me rude and told me I can't force my opinion down his throat like that. His wife told him to shut up and listen to what I actually said. However, he told me I had humiliated him and criticized him for having his opinions, and that makes me the antagonist. Am I the antagonist? Should I have simply left the topic alone? Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk here. I'd have a hard time not laughing at his little tantrum. Damn, the amount of energy he's dedicated to this is wild. If this is what he considers a big problem, he's lucky in life. It's also telling that someone having a simple difference of opinion on this makes him feel humiliated. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.